This is the Fantasy Huddle. I'm Randy Shaver, along with Grandpa on the couch, Kevin Gorg. Week 3 of the NFL season is in the books. This show brought to you by Aquarius Home Services, also 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. All right, well, you were right. I was wrong. Caleb Williams had a big day for the Chicago Bears. I laughed at that choice, and two reasons why. I didn't think the Dallas defense was that bad, and I didn't think Caleb Williams looked any good at all after the first 2 weeks of the season. But obviously, the greatest cure for him was the Dallas defense. So I hope you played, Caleb. I hope you had a lot of success in all your plays on Sunday.
Yeah, I had some success, Caleb and Udunze, but where I got caught, Randy, is I like to stack what I believe are high-scoring games, and that game to me was one of the higher-scoring games as I handicapped it. So, of course, on the other side of my stack, I had CeeDee Lamb, and unfortunately, especially if you own CeeDee Lamb like I do in a couple of season-long situations, that was a problem.
Well, not just CeeDee Lamb, James Conner now out for the season with a terrible ankle injury. Mike Evans is out 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring. Tyrone Tracy's out for a couple of weeks, maybe longer, with a shoulder injury. It's Jackson Dart season. The Giants announcing today that he will replace Russell Wilson at quarterback. So there's a lot of things happening right now across the league. Is there one injury that you think stands out the most this early in the year?
Well, I think as now we approach the 1 month portion of the season, you always hear about Randy overreacting after weeks 1 and 2. Well, after this week, we have a month of work, and the injury I keep coming back to is Joe Burrow. And all the Viking fans that watch this platform on a regular basis understand just how bad the Bengals looked on Sunday at US Bank Stadium. And it worries me because I'm 0-3 in our league here in the Talk North Fantasy Football League. And a big part of that is I was all in on Chase Brown, and I have shares of him all over my fantasy boards, and he is not being given any chance right now because without Joe Burrow and a bad offensive line, there's no respect being shown to the passing game like it has been in years past, and they're stacking that box with 7 and 8 bodies, and there's nowhere for Chase Brown to go. He's still an incredibly talented player, but without Joe Burrow, I had no idea the ill effects this would have, but he is no longer, in my opinion, a top 24 fantasy option, and I had him as a top 12 option for the season started. And obviously, CeeDee Lamb is a first-round pick for everybody.
Right.
Maybe you fill him in with a guy like Turpin on that roster, but he's not CeeDee Lamb. It moves up George Pickens significantly, but boy, it's too bad because, as we mentioned, Dallas's defense is fantasy gold, but it also forces the hand of Dak Prescott, and now his go-to weapon is gone.
This was a week to go waiver shopping. If you were lucky enough to have a first or a second or a third pick this week, you've got to get after some of these players that are out there. Even if you don't need them, take them away from someone else. Even if you don't need Trey Tucker of Las Vegas, take him away from someone else and get your roster even that much stronger. And don't let the guy who lost CeeDee Lamb this week to pick up those kind of guys. Take them away before they have a chance. One thing that surprised me so far before we get into our games for next week, how about the NFC West? 3-0 49ers, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. I'm not sure I would have guessed that this would be the best division in football after 3 weeks of the season.
No, I'm with you all the way. And I think the most impressive team in that division might not be the team that's leading. The LA Rams look really, really good. And if not for a blocked field goal, would have gone into Philadelphia. And I feel bad. And I know this is a fantasy football show, but if you follow point spreads and you have a friend, or maybe you bet the Rams plus the 3.5, and that happened to you, that's as bad a beat as you ever want to see in football.
You are up by so much in that football game. I think they coughed up, 26 straight points or something crazy like that. I mean, that's just unbelievable against, obviously, a very good football team. And we also learned that Jalen Hurts will throw the ball when he has to. So that's a positive sign if you have Jalen Hurts. All right, let's dive into the games. This is week 4, and we've got an early Sunday morning game. And Kevin's in charge of this one. The Vikings are taking on the Steelers. This game being played in Dublin. It's an 8:30 start.
Yeah, and I think it's really fun for all of us that play fantasy now to have that Sunday where the action starts at 8:30 a.m. and goes till 11 o'clock at night. On the Vikings side, I'm going to give you full credit, Randy. You've talked about this guy all the way back in August. Jordan Mason was a guy that was on your radar from day one. And boy, if you listened to Randy and had him on your roster and waited for the injury to happen, this guy is now where I thought Jake Brown was. He is a top 12 RB1 in fantasy. Jordan Mason went off, and he will go off again because I got news for you. Pittsburgh pulled a rabbit out of their hat. New England kicked them up and down the field. I mean, literally, New England could not be stopped if not for 4 fumbles. The Vikings are going to be able to run the ball on this Pittsburgh defense, and Jordan Mason, I believe, is set up for another smash game. Justin Jefferson gets help now because guess who's back? Jordan Addison. And Addison's startable right off the bench, but I think it's going to help, Randy, take some pressure off of Jefferson. I get the Adam Thielen signing. I think that was a really good move by Minnesota, but he's not going to take pressure off of Jefferson in the secondary like Addison is. Hawkinson's starting to come alive, and maybe Carson Wentz was the elixir he needed. So I like the Vikings in this spot, and I'm loading up. I think you can start them all. If you're desperate, Carson Wentz could be a dart throw. On the side of Pittsburgh, there are 2 guys I like, and I like nobody else. Jalen Warren continues to produce fantasy points because he can catch the football, and there's a lot of dump-offs when you have a 41-year-old quarterback that can't move, and DK Metcalf is still a stud. He's still so good, and Rodgers can get him the ball. Austin's a dart throw. Jonnu's starting to wake up, but he's not startable. And again, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think you want him against this defense as the Vikings start to get healthy.
All right. Seattle is at Arizona. It's the Thursday night game this week. A couple of big games in the NFC West. The number's about 44 and a half, somewhere in there. Seattle is a slight favorite. Both teams have solid defenses, both giving up around 17, 18, 19 points a game. On the Seattle side, obviously, JSN is just defensive proof. If you've got him, you've got to play him. I think that Sam Darnold is waking up. He's starting to figure some things out for them. I really like JSN. I like Kenneth Walker more, though. Kenneth Walker, I said this last week, look out. He's coming back, and he did, and he played a great game last week. Arizona has a decent defense, nothing, out of this world, but those 2 guys, to me, fairly concentrated, JSN and Kenneth Walker on Thursday night. The Cardinals, of course, they lose James Conner. Trey Benson, if you've got him, think about starting him. You probably took him as a backup. Maybe you handcuffed the 2. So obviously play him because he's going to get the bulk of the work for the Cardinals this week. Trey McBride continues to get volume at tight end. He's a playable guy no matter who they're facing. This is a good Cardinals football team. I mean, they can move the ball. Lost a tough game against the 49ers on a last-second field goal, but they can move the football. To me, though, this looks like a 20-17 kind of game. And so even though the number's at 44, I just don't think there's a lot there to jump on board and feel great about. But there's some good pieces that so far through 3 weeks look pretty rock solid to be able to play. Washington at Atlanta. It's a noon game on Sunday.
Yeah, big question mark here for Terry McLaurin. Clearly one of the go-to guys on the Washington side. And if you've got him, you'll have to wait on him. I would say it's 50-50 at best. Deebo Samuel remains a great option. I mean, if you've got Deebo, start him with confidence. Either way in this spot, probably better if McLaurin actually gives it a go just as a decoy. And then you've got Jaden Daniels in that question mark. We still don't know if he'll play. I still think he's doubtful. Mariota was okay. Mariota's still, I think, a usable backup in desperate situations. The real problem for me with the Washington side, Randy, especially a game like this that has a higher over-under that's approaching the mid to upper 40s, is what do you do with this backfield? And when we love Krosky Merritt, you've got Rodriguez there, and now you've got McNichols. So you've got 3 guys. They all cancel each other out. I can't use any of them. If you want to take a flyer in daily, then go for it. But none of them are usable in season-long fantasy. On the Atlanta side, what a disappointment it was last week. They get shut out, Randy, at Carolina.
Awful.
Think about that. Unbelievable.
Awful.
So Bijan Robinson's going to bounce back. We know that. I still think he's the best player in fantasy. Jonathan Taylor's making his own argument right now in Indy, but for now, Bijan's the man. He'll bounce back. London startable. Pitts still in a tight end wasteland is still startable. And I don't know what you do with Penix and Mooney. Both those guys, to me, are fringe starters. Penix, if you're desperate. Mooney, if you're going for a real big dart throw. For me, though, Bijan and London are the guys you want to focus on in this matchup.
All right. New Orleans at Buffalo. This is a Sunday start at noon. 48.5 is the number. The Bills are like 2 touchdown favorites. I mean, it's very clear who likely is going to win this football game. Obviously, you can never say never, but on the New Orleans side, to me, there's 2 guys. And again, it's concentrated. It's Kamara and it's Olave. Olave's getting targets. In fact, I think he leads the NFL in targets through 3 games this year. And Kamara is running the ball despite the fact that they just don't have a lot around those 2. The Bills give up the most passing yards to any team so far through 3 weeks. So there's that if you want to take a chance. But for me, there's really nothing on the New Orleans side that I feel comfortable with at all. If I have those 2 guys and I don't have any other options, then I'll play both Kamara and Olave. On the Bills side, the Saints defense it's middling. You know, they're not terrible, but they just likely are going to get clobbered. And to me, this is a game where James Cook stands out and Josh Allen. Those are the 2 guys. In fact, I would play Josh Allen naked and feel great about it. Yes, he's got a number of receivers. Kincaid is a decent tight end, as you say, in the wasteland of tight ends.
Yeah,
he works. But to me, it's Cook and it's Allen, because I think that Buffalo will be ahead. I think they will at some point just grind the football. You know, I just think it's a running back game for Buffalo. And I also like the Buffalo defense this week. If you have to play a defense, I think that's a really good defense to play. So it's pretty concentrated this week on both sides, but clearly the Buffalo Bills side is the heavy favorite. Cleveland's at Detroit. This is a noon start. And after what Cleveland did to Green Bay, wow. Is it possible that Cleveland could even think of pulling off the upset in Detroit?
Well, let's not forget, before Joe Burrow got hurt, you know, Cincinnati went in fully healthy to Cleveland and got lucky to win in week 1. The Cleveland kicker missed an extra point and a field goal, and that ended up being a 17-16 game. This Cleveland defense, Randy, is legit. So here's what I'm going to tell you. The over-under is 44.5, and Detroit's a pretty heavy favorite, as rightfully they should be, around 8 points. But off that emotional win on Monday Night Football against Baltimore, this is a dangerous spot for Detroit for a letdown. So I'll just say that way. Quinshon Judkins, another guy that Randy Shaver was very bullish on, finally got a chance to go out there and show what he can do. And this kid's talented. Oh, my God. He is the Cleveland running back you want. He's probably, without a doubt, the one fantasy player. If you're going to have a Cleveland Brown the rest of the season, that's the guy I would point to.
Not Njoku?
Well, listen here. Now, hold on, smart Alec. In this tight end wasteland, Njoku is starter. But like your guy in Detroit, by the way, ironically, they're going head to head. Neither one of these guys has found the end zone, which is depressing.
Oh.
Snaps. But the problem, Randy, is...
Time out, Gorgie. You froze up. We lost you.
I'm too emotional here about Njoku. Maybe that's it. He's out there for 92% of the snaps, but the problem is he's a really good blocker, and their offensive line, like a lot of middling teams, needs some help, so they use Njoku a lot of times to chip in there. Flacco, listen, if you need to throw a dart, they're going to likely be chasing. They're likely going to be throwing, so keep that in mind. On the Detroit side, it's a no-brainer right now. You're starting Gibbs. You're starting Montgomery. You're starting Aaron St. Brown. You're starting Jamison Williams. You're starting Laporta. You're starting Goff. All I'll say is this Cleveland defense is legit, and Detroit is ripe for a letdown. So I don't think it's a situation where you're going to want to focus on Detroit stacks in daily fantasy. It's just all their players are so lovable in season long that you just plug and play.
Yep. All right. Let's go to Carolina, New England. This is a noon start on Sunday. The line's about 44.5. The Patriots are a favorite of about 4 to 5 points. Patriots have the worst pass defense and yardage in the league right now. Carolina coming off a convincing win over Atlanta. That doesn't mean anything to me. There's nothing on the Carolina side that I like, especially walking into New England, who are going to be ready and fired up to win this football game. They've got to get themselves back in the AFC East, which, by the way, is just an awful division other than Buffalo. So it's a monster game, I think, for New England this week to get healthy and get well. I just don't like anybody on Carolina. You could play Hubbard. He's getting volume. We talk about Ted McMillan all the time. I just don't think there's a piece on the Carolina team that I care for. On the New England side, again, play Drake May and play Hunter Henry with Drake May, because Hunter Henry in this wasteland of tight ends is red hot right now. He is the guy that you want to play at the tight end position. 11 targets, 8 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. I think their running game will have success against Carolina. You just got to figure out who. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson probably is not going to play much. He just fumbled again, at the goal line. I mean, how many chances are they going to give this guy? Travion Henderson sure seems to be the guy, but Antonio Gibson got some playing time ahead of him.
He also fumbled too.
Yep. And so there's a lot of things there that are question marks. To me, Drake May, Hunter Henry, those seem to be the safe marks. And I'll say, I kind of like the New England defense this week too, to come back and play a great game against Carolina. All right, the Chargers at the Giants. Interesting week for the Giants, and it's a noon start, and Jackson Dart's going to make his NFL debut against one of the toughest defenses in the league.
How about that? The news cycle in New York, they've been begging for Jackson Dart. He kind of was a media darling during training camp, and now here he comes on that big stage. Before we get to the Giants, though, we got to talk about the Najee Harris injury. It's significant. It's likely season-ending. So Omari Hampton, the rookie, a guy we've talked about a lot during training camp, looked the part of a guy that can take over this role, take all of the usage here, and do something with it. He was brilliant last week, 24-plus fantasy points. He is a go-to guy, a guy I would look for in daily fantasy because this Giants defense really stinks. Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston are your top 2 receivers with the LA Chargers. Let that sink in, because before the season started, and I was one of the handicappers in fantasy that loved Ladd McConkey. He's still usable, Randy, but right. He's the 3rd best option in fantasy on this team, and that is crazy to me. But the Chargers are legit. They're going to be playing with the lead. All these guys are going to contribute. Herbert is a stud and a must start every week at the quarterback position. Here's the name to watch for the Chargers. Again, with the tight ends kind of being a mediocre bunch in general across the league, Oronde Gadsden II is a rising star and a guy you might want to stash on your roster if you've got a spot available for a team that's going to score a bunch of points. That's the Chargers. Now, what do we do on the other side? First of all, we start with Jackson Dart. If you have to start him, boy, you better plug your nose and hope, because this defense is legit. He can run a little bit, and they're going to be creative. They did so in the preseason. This guy can do some things a lot like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, but maybe not to that level right off the hop and start number 1. But he is a sneaky daily option at a cheap price. Now, the running back, Cam Scatabo, with the injury to Tracy Jr., this becomes his backfield, and I love this kid. Randy, he's durable. He can catch the ball, and he's great in the red zone. Scatabo, to me, is a borderline RB1. He's for certain an RB2 as you're stacking them across the landscape of the league. I don't know what the hell happened to Malik Neighbors last week. I want to just pretend it didn't happen because he's too good a football player, and he was awfully quiet last week. That won't continue. Malik Neighbors is a stud. Wan'Dale Robinson, still a guy you can mix in, but for the gist of it, that's the story of the New York Giants.
Malik Neighbors absolutely killed me this week in season long. I had him in quite a few leagues. All right, let's go to Philadelphia, Tampa Bay. Noon start. This might be maybe the better game of the week as far as NFL games go. Maybe not fantasy, but NFL games go. 45.5 is the number. Philly's an early favorite, about 2.5. Both teams, great comeback wins on Sunday. Both defenses average giving up about 18 points a game. So the number feels about right, maybe a little high. Philly would love to run against Tampa. The Bucs give up only about 75 yards a game. So it's going to be tough sledding again for Barkley. But the tush push will be fine. So if you've got Jalen Hurts, play the guy because you know he can do it from both the run and the pass. I like the fact they threw the ball and they threw the ball effectively and they spread it around. So, maybe the Philly receivers aren't being ignored as much as we thought. So there are pieces on Philadelphia. Feel free to play them all. Maybe even think about stacking. Maybe add Devonta Smith with Jalen to take a chance, something different. But Tampa's really good, and they're really good in the run defense, and they're pretty decent in the pass defense too. On the Bucs side, of course, Mike Evans is out now. He's going to be out for about a month, maybe longer. What does that mean? Well, probably Igbuka is your guy. Baker Mayfield is damn tough, and he can make plays regardless of who his receivers are. A name to keep in mind this week is Sterling Shepard. Maybe Sterling Shepard steps up for Tampa and becomes their wide receiver too with all the injuries. And we'll have to see what Godwin's situation is. I still think that he is not quite ready to play. The running game's been disappointing. Bucky Irving has been disappointing, just not there. And I don't expect them to have a great running game against Philly. I just don't see it. In fact, I don't see the run game on either side having big games. But having said that, it's quite possible they could get to the 1 yard line and Irving takes it in. So he's a playable part of your fantasy team. But to me, on the Bucs side, it's Igbuka. Play him because he's going to get the volume. And on the Philly side, I really love Jalen Hurts. Actually, you could play Jalen Hurts naked in this game and just like Josh Allen and feel pretty comfortable with that. Next game is Tennessee at Houston. It's a noon start, the last noon start on Sunday.
Yeah, now or never time for the Houston Texans. They are in desperate times. Tennessee, I don't think any big surprise that they're 0-3, but you've got a pair of teams looking for their first win a month into the season. So kind of depressing for both the fan bases. Tony Pollard, though, continues to be a regular. Yeah, he's going to be the guy. And we talked about this throughout the balance of the season. You can plug and play him in. He's never going to be an RB1, but he's going to be a solid RB2, maybe RB3 option, but he's going to be consistently good, and he'll plunge in a touchdown or two along the way. We talked about it. Elik Oyamaner, the young receiver. I like the kid. I know. I can't pronounce the name to save my life, but Oyamaner looks like a young, talented kid. Yeah. He's taking reps away from Ridley in the red zone. I still think you can start them both, the veteran and the youngster, because Tennessee is down in every game, and they're chasing, and they're really apt to throwing a lot of footballs. Chig Okonkwo is still a tight end you can use, but not a tight end you're going to look for to really blow up and score you a bunch of points. Tennessee just isn't scoring enough points to make him useful, and Cam Ward still looks like a project at the quarterback position.
Bad interception this last week too.
Oh my goodness, he looks like a rookie should. Like he's really struggling. Not somebody you're going to want to use in fantasy. On the Houston side, I don't know what to make of CJ Stroud. Like, I get it, you probably drafted this guy and you probably want to start him, but man, he has not looked good to me. He just doesn't look like the same quarterback we saw 2 years ago. He struggled last year. It looks like a confidence thing. You probably have to play him, Randy, but I don't think you love it right now with what he's producing. 2 touchdowns seems like the ceiling every week. Nick Chubb is a useful running back, a lot like Pollard, where I don't think he's ever going to splash and go crazy, but he's solid. And then the guy you want in this offense is Nico Collins. He's the one guy you can depend on, and he's starting to come, I think, with his best stuff. And in a must-win, I think they're going to lean on Nico Collins. The other guy's Dalton Schultz, a tight end that's going to fill you 5-6 catches, maybe 50, 60 yards. You can hope for a touchdown. But to me, this offense is really all about Nico Collins, and I think Houston gets their first win.
All right, let's go to the 3:00 games on Sunday. The Colts are at the Rams. Should be another really good football game between these two teams. The number is high. It's about 48.5. The Rams are a 3.5-point favorite. Two really good, solid defenses going against each other. The Colts may be the greatest story so far in the NFL with Indiana Jones leading the way. A ton of confidence. You mentioned Jonathan Taylor. He's having a fantastic season, 17 carries, 102 yards, 3 touchdowns against Tennessee. He's just a no-brainer on this offense. The receiving core is still a mess to me. I don't really see who to play. So saying that, Daniel Jones you can play him naked. I mean, I suppose you can take that chance if you want to. I just don't know what receivers I would play with him and feel confident about. I do like the Colts defense in this game, even though they're on the road. Rams on the other side, they've got marquee players. And first of all, Nakua, 15 targets, 11 catches, 112 yards. He's got 29 catches and 35 targets this year. Only Olave has more targets at 37. That's insane, the amount of volume that he's getting with Devonta Adams opposite him on the other side. So it tells you the kind of confidence that Stafford has in throwing the ball to Nakua. Obviously, I love the passing attack. I would stack Stafford with both Nakua and Adams in this game, even though the Colts defense is good. I do like the running back, Kyron Williams in this game, but I think the running game on both sides will be fairly tough sledding, and doesn't mean you're not going to get points. Doesn't mean they can't get 75, 80 yards and a touchdown. That's very possible from both sides, but it's not a smash spot, I'll put it that way, for running backs this week. But the volume is certainly there for both those backs and for Nakua at wide receiver. So play players on both sides with confidence, especially Jonathan Taylor and Nakua. Let's go to the other 305 game, Jacksonville taking on the 3-0 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers keep getting it done, and will Brock Purdy come back this week? We'll get to that shortly. We'll start with the visitors, as we always do. Jacksonville, you've got Trevor Lawrence. I would compare him to C.J. Stroud, with a guy with a lot of promise. If you drafted him, you're likely at some point going to want to use him, but not a guy that I think gives you a ton of confidence in consistent production on the fantasy side. So, yeah, you can start him, but again, he's a bottom side quarterback this week against always difficult San Francisco defense, even though they're a little bit shorthanded. Travis Etienne is the go-to guy in this offense in the backfield, but Tootin is kind of the guy that's kind of rising, Randy. He's a daily fantasy darling. He scored last week, starting to catch some football. So keep an eye on that. If you've got Etienne, you're going to want to grab Tootin.
It's a split backfield right now. I mean, they're playing both guys, and I think that's okay, because if you've got both guys, you're feeling good about it.
Yep.
And if one of those guys gets hurt, you're still in good shape. So
the biggest question mark on the Jacksonville side week in, week out is what to do with Brian Thomas Jr. And I've got him in a couple of leagues, and I believe in this kid. He's got a ton of talent. He's dropping footballs. He does not look like the same player we saw last year. Not going to panic 3 weeks in. Not going to do that with a player with his skill set. He still has a rushing touchdown like Nakua. They're drawing up plays to get this guy the football. He's their most talented player. But if you own him and you're getting a little squeamish, he's still a big name. Don't be afraid to package him up and make a trade if that's what you want to do. I still think he's going to get his, although I don't love this matchup for him. I think San Francisco is going to pay some special attention to Brian Thomas. Their tight end, Brenton Strange, is still usable. No way I'm starting Travis Hunter. I think he's a wonderful talent. They're using him on the defensive side now more than the offensive side. He had one catch last week. He's a big name, but you're not going to fall into that trap and start Hunter in this spot. For San Francisco, it really will come down to whether Brock Purdy can go. I would say it's something you want to watch into the weekend. We'll have an update for you here every Friday on those injuries. But for now, we're waiting at the quarterback position. CMC, Christian McCaffrey, is elite. He's RB1 every week. He has the chance to be the highest scoring player in fantasy every week. He has been outstanding, and so has Ricky Pearsall. Holy cow, is this good? Is this kid just talented? And with the injuries at the wide receiver position, he is the guy that you're going to want to lean on right now, because they're dropping like flies, and we'll find out what some of the passing options are for San Francisco. But even if Brock Purdy comes back, you're going to want Pearsall at the top of that list. You're going to want McCaffrey. And after that, you're kind of on your own, dealing with a lot of backups. Jawan Jennings now has some question marks to his health, and it really drops off a cliff.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic Home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Let's look at your fall water checklist. If you check yes to orange rust stains, smelly water, and that funny taste, then you should get a new Kinetical water treatment system from Aquarius Home Services. Then check yes to worry-free drinking water, spotless dishes, and softer laundry. Get a free water analysis plus 36-month zero financing based on credit approval. Visit AquariusHomeservices.com today. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. 10K Construction is your one-stop for all your general contracting needs, whether interior, exterior, residential, commercial, or multifamily properties. They build relationships with their clients, and that's how they've grown their business through referrals. Plus, they are teaming up with LP SmartSide to become Minnesota's premier siding installer. And they're also partnering with IKO Shingles as well. They've got the best of the best to do the job right. 10K Construction covers both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, the rumor is they charge a little extra because it's Packer land. I'm not sure about that, but what I am sure about, 10K Construction is the company you want handling all of your general contracting needs. Go to 10kconstruction.com for details.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
All right, let's move on. Baltimore, Kansas City. It's a 3:25 start on Sunday. Maybe 3 years ago, I would have said, wow, this is the best matchup of the week. It's not the best matchup of the week. The number's 48.5. That's pretty high. Baltimore around 2.5, 3-point favorites. The Ravens do give up a lot of yardage on the ground. I think a lot of that obviously coming against Buffalo in that one game. But the Chiefs are not a dynamic offense, although they do have some pieces. On the Ravens side, it's pretty easy. I was disappointed with Zay Flowers the other night. Just did not do much in the Monday night game against the Lions. Andrews actually had a very nice game, and maybe that's a wake-up call at tight end. But Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are still the two best pieces to play on Baltimore. They're the ones that are going to get the volume. They're the ones that have the best chance to score you points. And obviously, you're going to play those guys regardless of who they're playing against, but they should have success against Kansas City. On the Chiefs side, it's a spot where the Chiefs can move the ball, whether that means they score touchdowns or kick field goals. That's really the story in the game. So if you play a kicker, then this is the week to look at Butker because it'll be a high-scoring up and down game. They just may not get in the end zone a lot, and so that means the field goal kicking unit might come into play. I look at Mahomes as certainly a playable option at quarterback. Not really sure what the receiving core looks like around him yet. Worthy is questionable. He may play. Obviously, you can mess around with Kelsey and guys like that, but or Thornton for that matter. I'm just not high on him. I just think that there's just not a lot of solid pieces to play, but they're sneaky pieces too. I mean, Pacheco is going to wake up. He's going to have a game. Just don't know what week it's going to be, but he's going to have a game. So who knows? Maybe this is the week he'll have a game. But for me, clearly this game is all about Baltimore and Lamar and Derrick Henry. I think those are the two safe pieces to play in a game that might end up being under the number just because both defenses can step up and play big in big games. And I look at this as a big game. Baltimore's 1-2, and so is Kansas City. One of these teams is going to be 1-3
Wow.
to start the season. So there's a lot on the line this week in KC. Chicago and your man, Caleb Williams at Vegas. This is a 3:25 start.
Well, there's an old story in horse racing when you find a long shot that wins a race and they come back a couple weeks later and that same long shot is in another race. You miss the wedding, don't go to the funeral. And maybe that's the case here for young Caleb Williams because it was a great spot for him.
Yep.
And now I'm wondering, taking that show on the road.
I don't think this is a terrible spot, though, do you?
Well, the Raiders are a tough team to read, but I do think it's a different environment when you go on the road in a stadium like this that can get a little raucous. We'll see. He's still absolutely startable. I just don't think we're going to have 4 touchdowns this week. I think it's a different kind of game, not nearly as high an over-under total in the mid-40s compared to near 50 last week. But you can start, Caleb, that's fine. Swift in the backfield, listen, he's not glamorous. It's not pretty, but it's getting the job done. It's giving you solid production as a starter. It's never going to be spectacular for DeAndre Swift at this point in his career. Odunze continues to be the guy you want in this offense, Randy. There's a chemistry there with Caleb that cannot be denied. He's their big play guy, certainly somebody that you're going to want to find in daily fantasy, but if you can get him in season long, plug and play. He's a wide receiver 1. He's incredibly talented. Now, DJ Moore has underperformed. I think he's steady. I think he's going to be okay. The name to watch is the guy we've talked about a couple times here in the show, and that's Burden the third, the young wide receiver that caught the flea flicker, had some big plays in that football game. I'm still waiting on him, but it's certainly a guy that's on my radar. And now Cole Kmet is a usable option. They had a 2 tight end setting. Loveland, their young phenom, is hurt right now. He'll likely miss a couple of weeks. So you can plug and play Cole Kmet in, again, a situation where tight ends that are usable in this league are hard to find. On the Vegas side, man, it has been disappointing across the board. I own a ton of Brock Bowers, and I think he is one of the most gifted players in the league. That's real football. In fantasy, he has been a complete and utter killer. He's done nothing. I mean nothing. And so I still believe in Brock Bowers. This team has to get it going. If they can't get it going at home against Chicago this week, then the alarm bells are going to start to go off for me. Brock Bowers, to me, has to bounce back. Genty, where you drafted him, has not lived up to the hype. Again, like Brock Bowers, super talented. I think the best is still yet to come. Don't panic yet, but we're getting late early with these 2 young players that have all this talent. Jacoby Myers, to me, has been the most productive and consistent player on this roster. And now, what do we do with Trey Tucker? I don't know where that came from, Randy.
I know what I'm doing with him. I'm playing him.
Well, you're gonna have to scoop him off the waiver wire and plug him in because he looks like an option. And maybe they're starting to really double up on Brock Bowers to give this kid some single coverage. And then Geno Smith, again, a bottom feeding quarterback that if you're in the coming weeks stuck with some bye week terrorism, you can plug in because they're likely going to have to throw the ball to be successful. This offensive line, though, in the running game has been disappointing.
All right. There are 2 Monday night football games this week. So one Sunday night. This is the last game of the Sunday slate. It's Green Bay at Dallas. This game was in Green Bay. I think the Packers, they're favorites at about 6.5 right now. I think that number would be possibly double digits. They're that good a football team, even though they lost that tough game to Cleveland. I think you're going to see them bounce back. I think they're going to see them pissed off, actually, to get after Dallas. So I love the Packers side. I love Jacobs this week. Touched the ball 25 times against Cleveland through the air and on the ground. He's going to rip up Dallas. Jordan Love should be in a good spot here. The receivers are a middling mix. Tucker Kraft is hurt, trying to play through an injury. Didn't feel like he was in a good spot last week. He might be in a better spot this week. But I really think Jacobs, to me, is the guy to play in this game. On the Cowboys side, of course, without CeeDee Lamb and a very good Packer defense. And, of course, the storyline here is Micah Parsons coming back to play against his old team, the Cowboys. I just don't like much on the Dallas side. Maybe Dak and Jake Ferguson or Dak and Pickens. You could maybe take a flyer on stacking those 2 guys and hoping that Just the fact they're playing against Parsons gets them all fired up, and they might play a great game. I think that's wishful thinking, but the Bears defense is nothing like the Packers defense this week. So there's not a lot on the Cowboys I like. I feel like this is going to be a Green Bay blowout on Sunday night. 2 games on Monday, the Jets at Miami at 6:15. In fact, these 2 games kind of are about an hour apart. So you got to kind of picture in picture if you want to watch them both this week. But you've got the Jets in Miami.
Yeah, 2 bad football teams with some really cool fantasy options on both. So still a game I'm going to tune into. Keep an eye on Justin Fields. Will he be back from that concussion? I think right now in New York, the feeling is he will be. And if Fields comes back, he is a high-end option at the quarterback position because, like the top scorers in fantasy football, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, he can run the ball. So I'm waiting to see on Fields. I hope he can start. The biggest constant in this lineup is going to continue to be Garrett Wilson. He's a wide receiver 1. He is a top 10 option overall in fantasy. He gets a ton of targets. He is super talented. You can dial him right up. The backfield to me is a little bit muddied up. Yes, Breece Hall is the starter. Braylon Allen, Randy, is breathing down his neck. So I would keep an eye on this. I still lean towards Breece, and he's still the guy. But it's I think that separation is getting closer and closer. Wilson's the guy you want, and Fields, if he goes, and I think he will, could be a nice option. For Miami, Tua, as long as he's healthy, is startable because their offense is predicated around quick, short throws to skilled players with speed, and it makes Tua's numbers look probably better than he is in real football, but he's a very usable fantasy option. And that starts with Devin Achin, their back. He's just so incredibly skilled. Give him the ball, something good will happen. He seems to score in every single game. He's a cheat code. I love using him in daily fantasy. Tyreek Hill is starting to look like the old Tyreek Hill. He's never going to be Tyreek from 5 or 10 years ago, but he's starting to really have a little juice to his game. Another player where you're going to see 6 to 8 to 10 targets every week as long as he's healthy. Waddle, he's a red zone guy, certainly a guy you can lean on there. And that's it for the Miami Dolphins.
All right. Last game of the week is Cincinnati at Denver. It's a 7:15 start in Denver. The number is about 44.5, 45. Denver is a 7-point touchdown favorite. Feels like a blowout for Denver if you base it on what the Bengals look like against the Vikings on Sunday. And I think that's the big question, fantasy related, is what do you do with the Bengals this week? And you brought that up when we first started the show. What do you do with those pieces? I still think you have to play them if you drafted them high, just because they are great football players, and great football players will find ways to make things happen on the field. They just have to have the opportunities to do that. So yes, I'll play Chase Brown and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but I'm going to temper all my expectations against a very good Broncos defense. On the Denver side, to me, fire up Bo Nix. I think this is a Bo Nix kind of game this week, running the ball, throwing the football. I really think of all the quarterbacks other than Josh Allen, he's the quarterback I want this week to start, just because I think Cincinnati is beaten. I think this game against the Vikings has beaten them down, and I think Denver is ready to pounce. Denver's going to be fired up. I mean, this is a must win for Denver in the AFC West to get after some things. So I like Bo Nix. I love Cortland Sutton, and I like stacking the two together because Sutton still is playing with a lot of volume. The running game, a little bit more clarity with J.K. Dobbins this week, but it's a running game that I'm not crazy about. There's not like a Jordan Mason on the other side that I feel comfortable with. So I'll temper the expectations with that. I do love the Denver defense. If you have to play a defense this week, I'm sure they're the highest defense to pay for in daily fantasy this week. But if you have them in season long, you absolutely have to play Denver. So I love Denver in that football game. Let's talk about our best fantasy lineups. If you can pick a lineup and pick some players that you think will have big weeks, I'll start. This is my lineup this week. I love Josh Allen. I think you play him naked, although in some lineups I will team him up with Dalton Kincaid, I think, at tight end. I like James Cook. I love those two. Again, it's very concentrated for me this week with Buffalo. I think they'll be ahead of the Saints big, and I think they'll run the football. I love Judkins this week. I think he's getting the volume. I really like what I see, and I think it's a sneaky game for Cleveland in Detroit. So I'm going to go with Judkins. I love Nakua. He's getting 15 targets a game. Damn, I'm just going to play the guy. He has not caught a touchdown pass this year. He has a touchdown run. And he's still got 35 targets. I'm going to play the guy just because I have so much confidence in him. Trey Tucker. I may be a week too late. It's not going to be a funeral, but I may be a week too late. But I like Tucker this week, and I do like Brock Bowers. I think the Bears defense is not that good, honestly. I just don't think they're that good. And I think Vegas is going to be desperate to get after some things offensively and prove some things this week. So I'll take a chance with those two guys. And then my flex guy's Bijan, because I think Atlanta is going to be super ticked off to get after some things offensively. And maybe Penix more than anybody else, because Bijan still had like 85, 90 yards of offense in that game against Carolina. But Bijan is, as you say, the best fantasy football player, and I agree with that. So that's my lineup: Allen, Cook, Judkins, Nakua, Tucker, Bowers, and Robinson.
All right, I'll start at the quarterback position. You've called it a guy you can play naked every week, Jalen Hurts. With the tush push and now the passing game's coming alive, this guy is good for multiple touchdowns every single week. Plug and play. Backfield starts with Omarion Hampton, the young rookie. I love backfields like this that were split, and now there's an injury, and now this kid takes over and gets all the volume. He can catch the football. If they're inside the 10-yard line, he's going to get all the run. And I love this kid. He's super talented. What we saw last week with 24 fantasy points, to me, is very possible every week for a good football team that'll be playing from in front. I mentioned Devon Achane. Achane is just a guy I love in fantasy because even the floor features 50 yards rushing, 50 yards receiving, and like 7 catches. So there you go. There's 17 fantasy points on a bad day. And if he scores, that number just goes up astronomically. My receivers are Jackson Smith and Jigba, who continues to do what he's just over 100 yards, 6 to 10 catches every time he takes the field. And Sam Darnold, by the way, for all the Vikings fans out there, this guy still looks like a pretty damn good regular season quarterback. And so this guy's going to produce at the wide receiver position. I love that you talked up Cortland Sutton. Disappointing start for my Broncos. 2 games they lost at the Horn. They probably should have won at least one of those, but Cortland Sutton is a steady in that offense, and he's Bo Nick's favorite target. Fire up Cortland Sutton in PPR. Do not sleep on Dallas tight end Jake Ferguson. I am telling you what, if you're going to play PPR, 13 catches last week with no CD Lamb. There are not a lot of options, and you're going to see Dak Prescott use that tight end like he always has. Jake Ferguson is usable. My flex player is Garrett Wilson. I underrated this guy. I was not high on him before the season, but it doesn't matter who the quarterback has been for the Jets. This guy continues to produce week in and week out.
All right, very good. Like that. Good lineup. Here's my daily lineup. FanDuel pricing. And I probably, in all honesty, will shuffle this a little bit once I see the pricing for Trey Benson and some other guys. But this is what I went with late last night, early this morning. Josh Allen, 8,000. I'm going to play him naked. I would play him naked, but in this case, I'm going to play him with Kincaid. He's 5,600. I'm going to go to Genty. I like the Vegas offense this week. I like Tucker and I like Genty. I don't like the Bears. I think the Bears are not that good. So I'm going to go for a big Vegas week. Genty's only 6,800. He gets a lot of volume. And Trey Tucker is only 6,000. And for 3 weeks that he's had, especially the last 2, that's way too cheap. So I'm going to go with those 2 guys. I'm going to play Pollard this week at 6,200 at Houston. I just don't think that the Texans are that great at defense. And you said it, he's getting the volume, and I need to save some money. Why? Because I'm playing Nakua. He's at 9,400. So I'm playing, he's my highest priced player on the board. He is going to be facing a Colts defense. It's going to be a tough game. There's probably going to be quite a bit of scoring back and forth. And I'm just going to go with Nakua. I love Keenan Allen this week. He's at 6,500. And my flex player is Odunze. So I'm bringing a player back in that Vegas Bears game at 72. And I'm taking the cheapest defense on the board, the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, wow.
Playing in their game in Detroit, even though the Lions have a fired up, high power offense. I'm going to take the Browns, hope for a low scoring game and maybe a couple of turnovers, maybe a mistake on the side. And by playing a defense at 3,000, that saves me a ton of money throughout my lineup for a defense that has proven itself through 3 weeks of the season. So that's my lineup: Josh Allen, Genty, Pollard, Nakua, Keenan Allen, Trey Tucker, Kincaid, Odunze, Cleveland defense. That's what I'm going to play in some of my lineups this week on FanDuel.
I like your lineup a lot. I also like going cheap with the defense this week, and I'll get to mine in a second. Like Randy, I like using stacks, and I'll start at the quarterback position where Matthew Stafford has a great matchup. I think in all these Colts games, as good as these teams are defensively, both these quarterbacks can put up points. And I think that Matthew Stafford's going to be forced this week to throw the football a little bit more than he's had to. And why not stack him with one of his go-to guys, Devontae Adams? So I'll start with Stafford, $7,000. So it's upper side, but not breaking the bank at the quarterback position. I'll get to my wide receivers first because I'm stacking him with Devontae Adams, who's 7,400 in a good matchup against Indy. If Puka Nakua gets double covered, this guy could get a lion's share of the work in the red zone. I'm going to use Chris Olave, just $6,000 for the New Orleans Saints go-to guy. As Randy mentioned, leads the NFL in targets. $6,000 in a game. They're going to be down double digits probably most of the football game. So Chris Olave is going to get his. And then the other guy I love in daily is Deebo Samuel. With the question marks around Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel is going to be a touch machine. I'm looking for double-digit targets for Deebo. Those are my receivers: Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, and Deebo Samuel. Now I've got some money to spend, but I'm not going to go crazy with my first running back. I found a guy I love. It's $6,300. Quinshon Judkins. I love your guy, Judkins.
Yep.
You talked about him already today. At Detroit, I know they're likely going to be trailing, but this guy can catch the ball. And if they do get in the red zone, they're going to give him the ball. So now I've got a lot of money left to spend on my flex and my other running back. I'll start with James Cook. He's 8,500. The Bills are going to be in front. I love James Cook this week to score multiple touchdowns for Buffalo at 8,500. And that leaves me $9,300 to spend on Christian McCaffrey. I think San Francisco is going to blow the doors off of Jacksonville. I don't think their defense is any good. I think McCaffrey has multiple touchdowns. And like Randy, I didn't want to spend a ton of money on my defense, $3,300. Like Randy, I believe the Raiders are going to rough up the Chicago Bears. I've got the Raiders at 3,300. So my lineup features Stafford, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Deebo Samuel, Quinshon Judkins, James Cook, Christian McCaffrey, the Raiders D, and I almost forgot. You can never forget your tight end, right? 5,500. That's all I'm paying for Hunter Henry against Carolina. 5,500. This guy's on fire. So there you go. Hunter Henry, don't sleep on him.
I love the lineup. All right, very good. So after we're done here, is that where you just kind of lean back and take the afternoon nap?
If I was going to take a nap today, this would be the spot for sure. We're not in studio because I fumbled on what time we were recording. I was stuck at Wild Training Camp. This is where I watch my football. This is my spot on Sundays. But today the weather's too nice, and I've got two dogs, Fenway and Brooks, that have been so well behaved during this recording that I've got to reward them with a little walk outside here around the Minnetonka area.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks so much, Kevin. Once again, this is Fantasy Huddle for week 3. Our thanks to Aquarius Home Services, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. And we'll see you next week. Good luck this week.